Okay. I think I am streaming. I'm going to check. Oh, shit, I am. Welcome. Welcome, caller. What do you have to say? What's on your mind? Hey, Snark Buddy. Okay. So far, so good. Okay, so I guess it is streaming live. We're on our 5-minute mark already. Hey, what's up, bro?
Oh,
Hello.
I just noticed that your settings when you leave are retained for when you come back.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get rid of the chat. Hang on. Yeah. Okay. Why don't I? Lock meeting. Mute participants. Ah, look at that. That's new. Mute all mute everyone more. First only to chat with everyone. What are you drinking, soldier?
Oh, this is Mountain Dew.
All right, got to do the do.
A little bit of diet. Just
All right.
a little caffeine to get me up.
Cool. Okay, let me do my intro. Aloha or howdy and aloha to everybody. My name is James. You can call me Jim, Jimbo, Jimmy. I don't really give a fuck. My core values and morals and ethics and folkways and norms, in a sense, are basically just try to save this planet and all of its inhabitants. That's it. And we got a team of people that come on here that are interested in the same thing. And it has a lot to do with the political realm, the social realm, and the social media realm. So we're working on it, right, Snork?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's our goal. I mean, the best thing we want is for our kids and their kids and their kids to be able to swim in the lakes and rivers and oceans and play in the parks and mountains and path trails and stuff that we used to uh, without pollutants or anything toxic or radiant. That's the goal. And it, like I said, it has a lot to do with our political leaders, who I'd say about 95% of them don't give a flying fuck. So
Yeah, I personally wonder if we're going to be able to say that for the next generation, or to say, are we having the goal that some generation in the future can swim in waters?
that's my biggest fear. Is water is so powerful, yet it's so uh, it's I guess amiable is one word, but the biggest thing is it's so susceptible to contamination, pollution, and everything else, and that mankind has been freaking spewing in it. I mean, the biggest thing I think about is brake dust, tire tread, uh, micro, and this is real big. Is they're finding microscopic, not too micro. I mean, you could actually see it if you take a fish tank net that you would scoop up your fish with and just throw it around through the sea, or you're going to find certain things, but you're going to find small particles of plastics and polystyrene and just all kinds of stuff. It's out there, man, and our fish are digesting it, and plankton, and you know on a microscopic level, let's just say, what's this? Okay, there's phytoplankton and all that, right? Out there.
Yes.
I mean, at a certain point, you're seeing it with the Great Barrier Reef. They've pronounced it pretty much dead, and that's not hype. That's basically what's really happening. And it's just that's got to be one of the saddest pieces of news I ever saw a few months ago. Was they're it's in the process of dying. The coral's just turning white, colorless, gray, and they've got some new algae that's growing on it. Anyway, it's just, I mean, how do you revive something like that? It's the largest organism in the world.
Well, we're not going to be able to revive all of it. We need to keep it living, like I said, for those future generations.
Right.
But we need to start saving some of it. And what we have is the closer to the surface, the more vulnerable it is.
Right.
We look at coral. It grows from what, 500 feet deep. I mean, the type that's getting bleached,
Right.
500 deep to the surface.
Right.
Most of it being 240 feet deep and up. Does that sound correct?
That's it.
Okay, so we need to protect the top 240 feet. There is something we can do if we start looking at thinking of it as important to save. Basically, if we can't cool the planet to the point where it can live in the temperatures at that depth, because it is a very, very tight balance between how much light can get down. And the reason you say 240 feet is that's where the light's breaking down and doesn't penetrate anymore with the average amount of debris that floats in the ocean absorbing the light. So the temperature, the nutrients in the water, and the amount of sunlight all have to add up. And where we have these wonderful reefs is where there used to be a sweet spot where all three of them functioned well. What problem we have now is the water is migrating out of the temperature range that the coral wants to grow. So we're not going to be able to cool all of the reefs. But I think man-made methods, we could inexpensively cool large portions of the coral and still present man-made nurseries for young fish. Because that's coral gives us a lot of benefits. There's all kinds of creatures that come out of it. Now, coral is also a wonderful way of getting the excess calcium out of the ocean, and well, that's not really access, but the accessible calcium in the ocean and converting it to something we can use for limestone to cut down how much damage we're doing to the planet. So we really should be going out there and growing coral using pumped cool water to grow. And it basically is a wonderful carbon sequester. Although if we use it to make limestone, we're going to negate that, but at least it'd be carbon neutral. And we could be dumping large amounts of coral back into the areas where it's bleached and dyed.
Okay. Where do we bring the cool water from?
From the ocean depth. As you go down, you might be able to tell me this, because you actually have been in the ocean.
Yeah.
At 30 feet down off the coast of California, how warm is the water?
Oh, it changes dramatically.
Yeah. How much does it have to change? How far down in the water does the water or does the coral bleach?
Not that far.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So you only have to bring the water up a little ways. And I'll be demonstrating how to do that next summer. And try not to self-promote here. So there is a very low energy method of doing it that we could be using to save large amounts of coal. coral.
Hmm.
And I think we should. And I've been fighting with the should I do a GoFundMe and see if I can raise up some vessels to do some pilot projects for that. Uh, Definitely, we should try and get around Florida. Um, I'm not sure of how much coral is around Hawaii. Most of the coral I saw when I was out there was relatively close to shore and wasn't white. So I guess I need to go out there, get on a submarine, and go out and take a look around to see what some of the coral beds look like. Sounds like a project.
Yeah, it's there. What's interesting is the lack of the response from Hawaii. It's almost like they keep brushing it under the rug when it comes to, for one, Fukushima, for two, just the amount of pollutants that are already in the water. And it's because imagine saying, it's the ocean's just too polluted to swim in. There goes all of the tourism in Hawaii. The only reason why you're really going to Hawaii is to go in the water.
Yeah.
So,
I felt it was the same as that. I felt that some of the risks were being downplayed to uh, prevent the loss of tourism. On the other hand, I will say that a majority of the uh, extreme danger from Fukushima
mm-hmm.
has gone by. That was the first 80 days, while uh, the fuel was still reacting. That's not to say that there isn't danger, but the worst part of it was at the beginning, and that has gone by to the amount where I'm not so sure that it's much more of a hazard being in Hawaii than it is being um, in the Northwest United States.
Yeah, yeah. But eventually it's going to be everywhere. I mean, how much long? I mean, I think what people don't. I think most people understand that these currents are just never ending. They keep flowing and they keep building and they keep sucking that Fukushima radiant cesium 133 and dragging across in this big circular motion, and it just keeps getting. I think it's just going to get worse and worse and worse until something is. And remember, my idea was, and I actually had a picture. I can't find it. Was to, I mean, every single piece of trillions of dollars that we could use is to bore a hole underneath this thing and catch those rods, that are actually, I think, still melting their way through the earth because they're way past
Yeah.
the core itself. Am I right?
Oh, cesium 133 is stable. It's not a danger.
No, but I mean, but cesium 133 itself is
That's not the correct one.
oh shit! I've been fucking saying the wrong thing for what?
That's okay. That's
Since
okay. How many people
2011.
know that? Yeah. How many people know
Oh. Okay, so what is the actual byproduct that's the most dangerous coming out of Fukushima? What is the name? The actual.
that? The main one that hits really fast is an isotope of iodine. Um, and that dissipated after the first 90 days about. Uh,
It dissipated. What do you mean? There's nothing. There's so all the stuff that's
Radioactive materials don't remain the same thing that they are once they give off the radiation. They change to something else. So you have to look at the decay chain. Okay, once it starts as cesium, what is it next?
I don't know. You're the science
Barium 134.
So after cesium 133, it turns into barium 134. Is it still threatening to?
Cesium 134 turns into barium 134.
Okay.
So,
Okay. It's okay to look
okay.
it up. You
Yeah,
know,
sorry, I don't mean to
no,
slow your
you,
show
but you,
down.
no, it's all right. You know where to go. I wouldn't know where to fucking start, but it's good information. Yeah.
Once it becomes barium 134, other than chemically, it is not a radioactive issue anymore. But the cesium 134 for athletes is bad because it concentrates on and attacks the heart.
Okay, wait. Okay, so they're the water that they're dumping,
I don't
400.
know that the water has cesium in it, but it is a possibility.
It's a pot,
Um,
but they use it for coolant. It's the leftover coolant to keep the thing cool, so it brushes up against all this radiant crap, right? And then it goes by. It's like I'm the radiant crap, but I'm giving off something, and water's going past me, and then that's going out into the ocean. That's not affecting anything.
no, I didn't say that.
Oh well, that's
But uh, when it started out, it was most likely that it was not uh, in the water. It was in the air,
the plumes.
in the plumes. Uh,
Yeah, I heard a couple of those dropped on like Atlanta or something, or got close to like
even here,
Georgia.
even here.
Yeah, over
Uh,
there too.
so uh, it's been 5 years,
2011.
6 years.
Yeah.
So at 20 years, um, we should be back to background levels. A majority of the drop is in the uh, first quarter, so we're at least past the worst part.
Okay, the drop of what? Sorry.
Um, imagine it's. Oh, I'm trying to get my hand in front of them.
Okay,
Imagine ski slope.
I got it.
The first 5 years is where it's real steep, and there gets to be less and less every day fast, and then as it slows down, it kind of goes out like this. So over 20 years is the end of the ski slope. We're at that part where it's diving down fast.
Right. But if you simply, and I'm telling you, it's real simple. Just say radiation Fukushima, right? And then just all kinds of stuff comes up.
Yeah.
I've got
Uh,
there's this
and some
thing.
of our best sources of it have kind of been silenced.
So this is here's a good link. How radioactive is our ocean? ourradioactiveocean.org. Oh, this is what it's saying right there off the bat. Recently found the highest radiation levels to date, in parentheses, 530 sieverts. SIEV is in Victor, ERT is in Tom, S is in Sam.
Oh, the
Sieverts.
pronunciation could be local. I think it's Sieverts here.
Yeah, sieverts. In reactor 2, the isotope cesium 134 is the fingerprint of Fukushima, but it decays much. Okay, which you just said. Let me see what are these charts. Okay, current results.
My biggest fear is that the Japanese influence getting the Olympics to feed all these athletes radioactive food just to prove that tourism can come back. That I know that right after Fukushima, they would try to do everything they could. If you were uh, uh, European descent, they wanted to get your picture eating Japanese food.
For public relations purposes, of course. Yeah, of course.
And that's how my wife knew that her cancer was terminal.
All right, so I'm going on this site. It says it's looking at. I guess they have a way of detecting. Let's see
Yeah.
what the
Well, yeah. I'm going to look up the other one, make sure I got the right one.
updates to March 2017. There's been 6 years. Does it not end? That just got a heart attack fairly. So there's still some junk, man.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're focusing there on cesium 134 and iodine 131.
Right.
Sorry, the hiccups. And there are other transuranics that we really need to be focused on. And I don't even know if you want to sleep tonight if you want me to mention what transuranics are.
I already sleep like shit anyway, Snort. Go ahead.
Well, I often say radioactive, the periodic chart, let's think of it as a billiard table. It's not really balls that are one type. In fact, they're called the 100 and whatever elements, but really the differences between them by how many neutrons they have gives them an entirely different flavor. So uh, when when uh, when a particle or a billiard ball splits, it becomes two different elements, or an element in a particle. In the case of fission, fission is the term used where the atom splits and becomes two different ones. Uh, then there is alpha decay, which is also, I would really say, a type of fission, where two protons and two neutrons are lost from the atom. When they're lost, they go out and they find some friends. They take somebody else's electrons, which makes them chemically reactive, because chemical reactions are usually just the transfer of electrons. So an alpha particle is helium, but it's helium without its electrons, which is unusual. Helium should be very neutral, but when it doesn't have its electrons, it acts like oxygen or something else that wants to trade electrons for attractiveness. So it'll go out and grab something else. Oxygen. It's not oxygen. It's a couple of hydrogens. Well, but so you've got these atoms shooting out particles, hitting each other. Occasionally, one will capture a particle or another atom, and that's fusion. That's when two become one. So you can increase the size of an atom or change to another larger thing on the periodic chart by absorbing a particle, such as a beta particle, which is like a little minus charge, that wants to make it steal somebody else's proton, or basically it makes a proton from one of its neutrons. So it becomes something larger. And the more larger atoms get, the more unstable they tend to get. So the transuranics are the large atoms in the periodic table beyond uranium. So uranium actually has a almost stable isotope, but most of the transuranics are almost defined by the fact that they don't have a lot of stable isotopes. And so when you get into unstableness, the extremely unstable tend to have some type of reaction quickly, sometimes a billionth of a second, sometimes less. So in the case when somebody says, this is a horribly long half-life, I tend to look at that not as bad, but as good. Theoretically, everything has a half-life. But, if you say 14 billion years, there gets to be the point where you start saying, well, that's kind of stable to me. So,
It's like that's forever, Snark.
yeah, see, yeah, that's why you usually just stable.
So how long is this stuff going to be around? I mean, it's just...
Well, it depends. We're going to have other things. Again, well, actually, instead of a billiard, it's more like a pinball game. As these particles are splitting, they're sending particles to their friends. And then their friends are deciding, well, that extra particle is going to make me split or it's going to make me grow. And that's how you end up getting materials like when we started playing around with reactors back in the 30s and 40s. We started getting new things like americium, einsteinium, californium,
That's real?
deuterium.
It's real?
Yeah.
Those are actual...
Because when we were talking about inside the reactor, we had all kinds of particles bouncing around. And when an atom is hit by different types of particles, it reacts different ways. You can even put spin on them. As different neutrons hit, some of them will go into a state where they're spinning like a billiard ball. And it takes so long for them to spin down, and then they'll play a trick on their friends.
Put a little English on it, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I'm sorry if I'm trying to simplify the flight.
No, you're kind of not, but here, but the thing is it's a lot. It's a lot, and I'm understanding some of it. But in layman's, and I think you're trying to be as layman as possible.
Terms.
Yeah.
Fukushima, the actual reactors, are a nuclear pinball machine that we, every day, as these reactions are going on, it gets more and more difficult to define what concentrations of what atoms are in the piles.
It's making new...
Yes, radioactive. There's active. The active is important because they are changing. Radon, radium.
The fourth syllable.
Well, they're related in that one turns into the other.
Tiv.
And one is solid and one is a gas. The methods you use to hold a solid in one place can just be putting a lump on the table. The method you use to confine a gas can be much more difficult. And so when you have radioactive, you not only don't know which element it is, you don't know which phase of matter it is. You don't know if it's a liquid, gas, or solid.
Or base?
Base and acid are something different.
Okay.
But you are correct. You don't know if it's a base or a
so it could make
acid.
It could make
what it is at the time.
Like a mystery chemical or something, or mystery compound.
Chemical is a very good term for it.
That's scary.
It is. Evolving wouldn't be the correct term.
Right.
But that might be a way for people to think of it, is that it is changing. It's changing constantly. And because it's changing constantly and you don't know which isotopes of which when I say isotopes, I mean flavors. Imagine the atoms, all the atoms of uranium as being milkshakes.
Uh-huh.
If you add one lump of something versus two lumps, the flavor changes. And that's when you're adding extra neutrons, basically, with the isotopes. But, when you order a banana milkshake, it's not going to taste like chocolate. And it's not going to, especially if you're allergic to chocolate, it's not going to give you the same reaction.
Thank the gods I'm not.
Yeah.
So let's I don't want to go too far into that, and I'm sorry, but I'm really, I want people that ever watch this and actually we have over 130 or something views from last night's show, and I think they grow over time. But it's being shared, I guess. So when I'm going to talk about the risk of Fukushima, and I want to summarize it, and the first thing I'm going to say is cesium 134 is spreading at a very high pace, and there's some other mystery chemicals that are coming out that could be even more hazardous.
Yes, I'm more concerned with the others at this point. Cesium, um, I would say do not exercise in Japan.
What do you like? Don't exercise.
Don't exercise in Japan.
Well,
Now we have
they're gonna
Olympics
suck
there.
in the Olympics. Then those people probably won't, right?
Now at that point, it should be uh, half of it should have dissipated.
Okay, so I hear what I'm seeing as I'm reading. I'll show you this. Hey, Gordon. So what I'm seeing as I'm reading this, and I'll show you, and I'm listening or trying to comprehend all the stuff you say, and it's not easy, Snark. It's not easy. But anyway, so Fukushima, new study shows full radiation risks are not recorded. So that means that I don't think they're allowing the adequate uh, detectors and equipment to go in there that would probably really screw up some PR for them. I don't
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Well, even here in the United States, we sent all of our sensors in for calibration.
Here
So when the worst part went over us, we didn't detect it because the sensors were all immediately sent in for calibration, so that we wouldn't get any bad reads that would.
oh, are what you're implicating, young man, is that before we went out there to do our unbiased investigation, scientific investigation, or engineer, whatever that, we messed with our
Yeah, the data we have for the United States is based off European data.
that's okay. So data that was already produced.
No, they didn't take their sensors offline. What happened was when the Ronald Reagan went into the plume, after that, we ordered all of our sensors to be recalibrated, which meant that they weren't available during the plume as it went over us.
Uh,
Now that saved the Apple industry because apples have what? They have flowers.
yeah.
Flowers love cesium. Apple flowers, apple
Ah,
blossoms. So people would have not bought apples from the Northwest, which is a major crop for them. Nuts. People would have not purchased any. California actually is a dairy state.
yeah. Pretty much.
People would not have been drinking any dairy in the west coast of the United States for 80 days if they knew that there was iodine coming in.
The plumes.
Yeah.
That was actually a big thing right after the word plume came out. Just a few days after that, when it was exploding. Excuse me, when they were actually showing the thing discharging all kinds of uh, smoke and gases and like foggy shit coming out of the top of it. And we're just like, oh, I'm sure that's not healthy. You know, there were tons of it. It was just kept coming out for a long time. So that dropped somewhere, right? And was
Yeah.
back. Okay. That was a nasty cloud. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now the question is the water that they continue to use to keep it cool or somewhat manageable, but it's still not functioning properly. What is
At
that
this
water
time,
doing to the ocean?
it's not doing good things
Okay,
because
there you go.
it's not. Yeah, but it's not putting the amount of cesium and iodine that it used to. The iodine 134 is an indicator of an active reactor running, and now it looks like while there is reaction going on, you can't have a lump of any radioactive material not having exciting its friends. So there's always some level of reaction. What a reactor does is it increases the likelihood that those reactions happen quickly. So
We
it doesn't
stimulate
mean that
because in order to have nuclear power, we actually stimulate this in a sense,
well,
right?
you put a lump of these materials together, and at a certain point, the likelihood of one exciting one of its friends, one atom exciting one of its friends, goes up. As the distance shrinks between them, think of a ball that's emitting particles. Well, the larger this one gets, when it's out here, if it sends a ray at this level, it can go right on by. But you have the same angle, and the particle goes out, it's going to hit when it gets closer. So as you bring all of these atoms together, the likelihood keeps going up and up and up that you're going to have a reaction. In a nuclear reactor, you enrich it so you have a whole bunch of their friends beside each other, so that they're able to uh, accept that, and they go farther on by adding water to make sure that they're going by at the right speed, that they're actually going to get captured and make something happen. So outside the reactor, they still will be doing their little reactions, but not as efficiently and not as in such a chained manner, where one is constantly always going to be firing off three of its friends. And so, you know, the this 131 is, pretty much an indicator of a few things. The first, that there's an active reaction going on. You'll have lots of the iodine 134 given off. If you can also use it for, no, I think I got that wrong. I think it's iodine 131. You also use iodine 131 for fracking. So you can tell where the frack water's gone by measuring the radiation coming out of the water that's coming back up.
Shit. Ugh. Just never fucking ends.
I have a question that's slightly related to that. Okay, like in an aircraft's black box, why don't they put like an isotope or something in there that they can track?
Good idea.
Well, most isotopes, um, first of all, if it's an alpha emitter, you're not going to be able to track it. If it's a gamma, you're going to be exposing your crew to it. Even a smoke detector is expected to reduce the life expectancy of the occupants of the house by, I think, 0.4 days over the lifetime. A smoke detector is a relatively small dose.
Interesting. I just wondered, we have so many missing planes. Isn't there something that we could put in a black box that we could track like that? Something that emits radiation.
Yeah. Well, the only thing is, I mean, you could use it if you wanted to go for the radiation. The depth of 18 meters of water, you would not be able to see the neutrons.
It wouldn't be
So you
detectable.
actually have to be, excuse me?
It would not be detectable. Let's just
Yeah,
say
you
the
have to
plane.
get so close to it, you probably already see the vehicle.
Yeah.
Well, that was just a side question. Don't let me sidetrack you from the larger discussion.
Not about
I'm
any question.
easier to sidetrack than a dog looking for squirrels.
Squirrel!
There, I turned the sound up a little bit. I'm leaning over trying to hear you quite better, and I realized, turn that sound up.
All right, so in a nutshell, I'm going to say Fukushima is still fucked up and it's destroying our water.
Well, one of the things is that we're not making any attempts to clean it up, because we're trying. Well, not we, but it appears to me is that we're trying to make people think it's so helpless that there's nothing we can do except make this ice wall. and instead, I think we need to be saying, okay, this is bad. We have to start doing things. And what we should be doing is we should be chopping it up as fast as possible. We shouldn't just be letting it sit there. Uh, the Russians, I don't care what you want to say about the Russians. They knew it was bad, and they killed people to get that thing to a safer spot. It could have been a lot worse in Chernobyl if the Russians hadn't flown helicopter after helicopter of graphite and dropped it in.
Is it a mixed graphite? You're talking about like a cement kind of stuff, or
No, they were dropping blocks. They had they had they had the reactor open to the atmosphere. Their first thing was, what do we do to start blocking these emissions? And uh, uh, we don't give the Russians enough credit. I mean, for what they did afterwards. They didn't have to. They could have turtled up and just let it ruin the world like Fukushima.
but they didn't.
The Russians did something about it.
Okay.
They did something about that one, but weren't there other accidents that they did bottle up?
Yeah,
I seem to remember reading about a few of those.
we don't know what happened with the other 18.
The other 18. I
Yeah,
didn't realize it was that many.
yeah. There's 18 reactors sitting in the Arctic Ocean.
That's a frightening thought.
I know.
Russia's plan is get it out of there and get it under 18 meters of water. There's a bay in um, in north of Russia that you don't want to go into unless you want to die.
The other story that I never really followed up on was the Kursk. Like, is that thing still sitting down there?
I'm sorry, I have to think of which one.
It was the Russian sub that sank off of Sweden, I think. The Kursk. Remember there was a bunch of sailors trapped in it, like, I don't know, it was maybe 8 or 10 years ago, and it was all over the news, and they were trying to figure out how to rescue them, and it was a multi-day ordeal.
Wow.
But you don't know offhand. I mean, I could look it up,
No,
but
I don't
I
know
thought you
offhand.
might know offhand. Isn't there an issue with some of these submarines, like, you know, on the bottom of the ocean? They had some kind of an accident or something, and I've read stories about nuclear subs that have experienced accidents, ended up on the bottom, and just weren't recovered. I don't know how verifiable those are, but
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not an expert with submarines.
Uh, from what I'm hearing, is the robots that are going down into Fukushima are having a hard time because of the heat or just whatever that stuff is down there.
It
they
is radiation. They would say hard radiation.
yeah, hard radiation, and and some people are saying it's bullshit. There's no way they can get something down there to. But they have a new video that came out, July 23rd, 2017. I'm going to show you the guard. It's through the Guardian. It's okay. We're fine. So let me just put it up here real fast. I'll run it. You guys can probably see it. It's going to be on YouTube, by the way. I'm not. I don't post. I'm not posting anything on Zoom because that is not a good idea for this. For some reason. So anyway, so I'm just going to play this.
so you're gonna do like a full show or something, James, like with news and talking points or something?
With this, with what we're
Yeah,
doing.
it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything. Okay, so if I do have something, it's a possibility. But if I do have something, it's going to be a little more structured, a little more organized. But I just kind of like the fact that people can come on here and talk. I like this. You know, I mean, people with great radio voices like yourself. I mean, hold on, let me ask Snork something real quick. So, Snork, do you think this robot camera would be able to get this close to any of? I mean, if that's the actual damage and what's going on down there, that doesn't look really favorable. You know what I mean? It looks like, I mean, what is all this stuff? I mean, let me pause it there. Does that look like something that you would be familiar with? That round thing, if you're looking at the YouTube.
Okay, the brown is steel, the orange is transuranic.
Okay, so what do you know what we're looking at by any chance?
Are those control rods or what is that?
No, that's likely a rod assembly that's been melted. I wouldn't be able to identify it exactly.
But it's not good, right? That
It's
that,
not in a shape that I've seen.
that looks a little messy in my opinion, bro. You know, that looks a little messy. That
Not
and
quite up
it's
to spec.
and that's recent. And that's recent. So they still have, I mean, if that's it, and it's been 6 fucking years, it just seems like this it shouldn't even be at this point. It just seems am I are they fucking stupid or are we stupid?
Yeah, we don't know what those floaters are.
What floaters? What are you talking about?
Yeah, when you showed that, there's all kinds of stuff floating in the water.
Yeah.
Like those bubbles or whatever. That's what I thought they were.
There was debris. There was definitely debris. For sure there
There's
was debris.
nothing. There's nothing
Hey
living
Eric,
in
how
there.
you doing, brother?
There's nothing living in there. That's not algae and stuff.
Yeah, that would be a dead giveaway that that's bullshit if there was actually something swimming in there.
Well, bring the picture up again. Let's look at it.
I know, you know what? Fuck. I'm gonna do that. If there's anything just remotely moving or swimming in there, then that's just total bullshit. Total bullshit. Let's start from the beginning. All right.
See all the stuff floating in there?
Yeah, those little fragments or whatever, like that floating up. What is that?
My guess is there's some oxides that are caught in bubbles of helium. I actually see some bubbles. And there might be
Yeah, there's bubbles.
water bubbles as well. But those aren't moving fast enough to be bubbles that are rising. So that's debris that's rising. Again, we don't know what is rising and what is being blown by the propellers
Fans.
of the robot.
The propellers of the fan. I mean, that thing's going to stir up some shit. There's no doubt.
But,
Anyway, I don't like it. I don't like the fact that it's still sitting there and that it's still in the condition that it's in. All that stuff with the amount of, it's not even about money. It shouldn't even be about money. It should be about stopping it from continuing. It should be about stopping the nuclear plants that we already have. It should be about stopping the new fucking Deepwater Horizon event that just happened the other day. It should be about stopping all this. This is just, and we continue to destroy our Mother Earth, and it continues to give us food and shelter and protection, and we just keep just so it's sad. It's sad. I'm sad. Sad. But I'm also angry and a little perturbed. So that's why we talk about it and we get our message out.
And Ben in the chat asked about helium. It is true that there's a helium shortage. Now, typically where we got helium in the past was it would form at the top of the pocket where oil was. So oil floats on water, helium floats above water or above oil. So when we drilled oil wells in the past, and this was important to World War II or World War I, was that when we started drilling for oil in Texas, we suddenly had the world's supply of helium. We denied the Germans access to our helium to try to keep their Zeppelins from being able to reach the United States safely. And as we've been poking holes into all the oil reserves, we have been removing the potential spots where we can get large amounts of helium without sparking up a nuclear reactor.
Olo, hey Cheryl.
Hey, Shirley.
You guys have to recognize her number by now.
I'm bad with numbers. I just look at it and see numbers.
Yes, said the engineering scientific master. It's like what?
Hey, Eric, you want to get triggered?
Oh, I don't know.
Hillary.
Oh, trigger. Go ahead.
The DNC fired all Ellison supporters and Bernie Sanders.
I'm not surprised that they did
course.
that. I mean, they honestly, the DNC, they're just nothing more than a bunch of lecturing, limousine liberal, social justice warrior, moralist, pro-clutching, triggered, nonsense, distraction, corrupted idiots that honestly, they're so rich that they have become like, you know, the political celebrities that are a bunch of lecturing limousine liberals. Honestly, they just like to spew nonsense and distractions, just like celebrities, and they just act like it's like they're actors and actresses. That's honestly how I really do see them, and honestly, that's honestly how I see Hollywood. I mean, there's a difference. I mean, it's original people that, you know the average Joe that actually do give a shit for people. And you know what? They're a bunch of moralists that, lecture in their limousines and they're phony liberals. And honestly, they just like to spew nonsense and distraction. And you know what? I'm done with the Democrats. Like they're really nailing the nails on the coffin on this one.
Yes, they are.
The truth is, Eric has Sarah Silverman posters all over his wall. You just can't see them from the angle of the camera.
Yeah, right.
It's video game stuff.
He's just bitter.
They have
Ever sweet.
yeah, but you guys they have knives and darts in them, and then the eyeballs. And
I forgot about that part.
Like there's like scalpels and X-Acto knives.
Yep, they're all ripped up.
Just stuck inside her eyeballs and then her nose.
Lecturing limousine liberals. I just wanted to have like a little jolly tune.
Lecturing limousine liberals.
The Observer wrote an article today talking about Tom Perez's job may be in jeopardy.
Good. I hope that he gets fired. I hope that he gets fired because it would be funny.
He's a failure. And I think they kind of set him up for failure, to be honest.
Hey, before we continue on that, I just want to say, Snork, thank you for all that about Fukushima. That was awesome. Thank you. Is he still there?
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Good. Okay. Okay, so here's it. The way I'm seeing the DNC is they throw up somebody to see what the reaction's going to be. What do you think about this one? Okay. What do you think about this one? Okay. They keep throwing up these people to see if they're going to get it.
They're hiring. It's like hiring. It's like hiring a celebrity. That's honestly how I see the Democrats. They have become like political actors.
Yeah, that's all they are.
Yeah, I'm really starting to see through the bullshit. Honestly, they're the ones that lost in touch with the people. They got greedy, and they just distract us with nonsense. That's honestly.
Well, look at this shit they put Susan Sarandon through. Keep blaming her for Hillary's loss.
Exactly. I mean, they spat out fake. Here's one thing: they spat out fake news on Susan Sarandon. Honestly, you know what? Susan Sarandon should run for president. She should run for the Green Party. You know what? She should do it. I mean, if it's gonna piss enough people off, like kind of like have the Trump effect, like how they have the Streisand effect, but have the Trump effect. Once she calls about fake news and actually talks about the real issues, then people will start taking her side and actually taking her seriously. And plus, she got hit with fake news.
Yeah.
Susan Sarandon 2020.
Yeah, and to James's point, like the other part of their strategy is to put people up there who have no voting record, or have people like Ro Khanna, people that are just just coming in, or they're junior senators, junior Congress people, and then that way, there's really nothing to attack there. They can say whatever they want. They can be like, "Oh yeah, I'm for free health care for all kids." And you can't go back to their voting record and be like, but you did this, this, and that, So that's another part of their trick. They're trying to fool us into thinking that these are grassroots candidates, and they're really not.
I love that facade of a term, grassroots.
AstroTurf.
Yeah,
That's the other.
fucking yeah, AstroTurf root.
And what really slapped
Perfect.
me in the face, they gave Donna Brazil a position on the Rules Ways Committee.
Yeah.
That's like giving a drunk to teach a class for DUI.
Donna Brazilian wax.
Well, the fact that they're doing this shows that whatever schism is happening in their party is just growing wider. There's the pro-Hillary camp and the anti-Hillary camp. I don't
It's
like
the
either of the
fake news
camps.
narrative. It's getting hairier. It's getting hairier.
Yeah, I don't like either of the camps, but they're fracturing. The infighting is increasing as their desperation increases. We're getting closer and closer to 2018. No shit.
I just hope Bernie Sanders would just go up against the Democrats already. Just go up against them and just be like, you know what, you cheated. You know what, you cheated. You know what, he should just. You know what, people should just be done with the Democratic Party. It will scare the shit out of them. They'll become like the biggest. They'll become like the biggest pussies ever. Honestly, that's what. Honestly, they use and abuse people. They treat people like pussies, and the people that are brainwashed, they want. I mean, they're like they use politics to bully people, and honestly, that's honestly how I do see the Democratic Party. They're a bunch of pussing bullies, and that's what I don't like about the party at all. Once they actually do some actual real structural change, I am never going to vote Democrat again. They can all go fuck themselves. Honestly, but if Democrats are the one, if Democrats like certain Democrats, if they actually truly want to stand for something and actually do something, then I'll give them credit where it's due. But for the ones who just want to just lecture us about nonsense and distraction and be like, oh, we're going to bully beat you into voting for us because we quote unquote stand for you, but you can go out and spew it. You could go out and spew it like every 4 years or every 2 years whenever we need help. And you know what? People do work hard, but they don't see how people really do work. Honestly, they just, go in their live in their little, corporatist, smuggy, phony, neoliberal, lecturing limousines and think they actually care for the people but they really don't give a shit. That's why I'm really fucking through with the Democratic Party. They can go fuck themselves.
Yep, I agree. Like they've used these bullying tactics. If they're not like
And I was
bullying
bullied.
I was never personally bullied. I was never a huge Bernie supporter, but it was disgusting watching the convention, for example. It was disgusting watching the aftermath of it, and it was disgusting watching the lead up to it. And now, like, I don't know if you guys have seen that. I haven't seen the show, but it's the Again, it's the trailer for the Sarah Silverman show that's coming out. It's just more the
That
same shit.
nobody's gonna watch.
I ain't fucking
Good,
watching.
boycott it. Good, boycott it.
It's more just like, mockery, and she thinks she's being tongue in cheek by, quote, admitting that she's kind of out of touch, but all it ends up doing is emphasizing that she's more out of touch. I mean, you just got to see it, I guess, but it's worthless. It's more the same garbage.
Did you watch it?
I watched the trailer of it, and I watched like an interview or something.
Yeah, it's like it's like something you'd watch right after Rachel Maddow spewed about fucking Russia. So I just don't really want to.
It's all propaganda culture.
Yeah.
Well, Jamal did a segment about it, so I ended up watching to see what he was talking about before I commented.
Right. I ain't gonna watch it. Nobody's gonna watch it.
It's all a propaganda culture.
Yeah.
That's the way I actually do truly see it. That's what PC stands for. The political correctness is their propaganda culture. And these social justice warriors are so hijacked by the mainstream media that they really can't think for themselves. So they go out and spew the word justice instead of actually standing for real justice. Honestly, that's the way I actually do see it.
Well, the SJ oh, go ahead, Shirley.
I wanted to ask something. Did anyone hear that Puerto Rico was getting waste from a Superfund site, the water?
I didn't get that.
They've got the military base there. Does it have something to do with that?
I don't know, but they said it was a Superfund site there that's been down for years, and they was getting them water from there. And lo and behold, today, CNN, which is fake news, went out there with a lab, and the guy going to say, "Oh, I would drink this water." I can't believe that.
No, I would believe that. I would like to see the test myself. But water is one of the most purifiable substances that there is. It's not cheap to purify. If it's a Superfund site, they might have the proper equipment on site to actually clean the water, strip it down to what's called DI water. From that point, you can add calcium tablets to it, which protects your teeth, because water actually will erode your teeth if you drink it in its pure state. So you add a little bit of calcium to it, it doesn't cause any problems at all. And it's probably the best tasting water that the island's ever had, if they're going that route. And my guess is, from what I saw, that's what they're doing, is they have DI water on site to mediate their other issues. And if that's the case, being right by that plant is probably the best place to be in Puerto Rico. Nuclear power plants, they flood their reactors with water. They have DI systems to remove any radionuclides that might get in the water in case they evaporate or whatever. That water is kept in a extremely clean state. And again, like I said, for making pickles. Now, well, I mean, water purification for pickles doesn't sound like it's important. You don't want your pickles recalled. Once you get a recall, you have a bad reputation for many decades. So pickle water, a lot of water for canned foods, actually can start off as nasty water. And it gets cleaned to the point where these companies are willing to risk their many $1 million per year income on the quality of their water. And you can. I would rather have water purified from a sewer than I would to drink a bottle of spring water that's in a grocery store.
Don't buy a bottle of water at the grocery store.
Well, a bottle of spring water.
Okay.
Spring water, by national standards, cannot be purified.
Okay, so it can, but
I was aware of that.
I don't. Yeah, but I mean, aren't there natural minerals that we're actually stripped of in some of this purified water?
It is stripped in the purified water. But if you're eating a balanced diet, the amount that's in your water doesn't matter.
Oh,
So your diet's what is the important part. Your water should be as pure as possible, reasonably. You should have at least 50 parts per million of calcium in your water, just for your own teeth health. But your kidneys work better the more pure water you drink.
what kind of
Well,
pure water?
Stuart, I just found an article. I think it's called New Scientist, and this was a little 3 days ago, and it was like how to clean up the dirty water Puerto Ricans are drinking. So they had dirty water.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps you can do. Some plants are really good at taking nasty things out of the water. Uh, I did a project for Chemists Without Borders uh, uh, where we took a plant and suggested putting it in their water for 2 hours, and it removed 80% of the nasty industrial chemicals that were in their water. Cut the roots off, burned the roots, and the top part was edible. All of the nasties were in the roots. So our incentive was to give them the food and to make the extra effort to go into it. So natural remediation, plants, reeds, and stuff like that helps. But we need to get away from the myth that if you see water flowing in a stream and it looks clear, that it's clean. Because fish don't live in clean water.
Hey, I got an important announcement. It's a very important announcement. I'm going to show it real quick
Oh.
on YouTube, and then I'll tell you what's going on. The Dodgers are going to the freaking World Series. That's all I got to say.
Oh yeah, I got that alert earlier.
So okay, so we have these plants that are absorbing the nastiness out of the water. We cut the roots off and burn them. Like if we were to implement this on a large scale, though, I mean, we would have mounds and mounds of roots.
That's
And they
correct.
would still have all of these things in them. So I mean, what's the next? What's the step to that?
Well, once you know you have it, you can sequester it. But the thing is we need to be thinking about the externalities of the cost. The industrial companies that threw the stuff in the water end up not paying for it. And that should not be the case because remediation is not cheap.
Well, of course, it's just more subsidizing costs, and you know.
But the people downstream bear the costs. This is kind of true in the United States as well. There's all kinds of things we're bearing the cost from.
Well, it's become almost a meme, you know, like privatize the profits, subsidize the costs. And we see this on all levels over and over again.
It's the American way.
The thing is like there's some parts of a functioning society that you can't really monetize, it seems, if you want to make them work properly. At least we don't know how to do them yet. Like, for example, like we were talking about stripping these metals out of cell phones. I mean, I hate just to be like, you know, subsidize it, because that's just the easy solution, or the easy. Sounds like there's something going on there.
Well, personally, I believe that we should have all kinds of unemployed people going through all of the old dumps, recovering as much materials as we can. To me, it's unthinkable that we sink ships to make reefs and stuff.
To make
we
what?
should not.
Oh, to make reefs. Okay, yeah.
Well, I believe we need the reefs, but we need to not be mining so much iron. So when we have the iron concentrated in one place with that ship, we should be cutting it up and melting it down.
Mm-hmm.
We should not be dumping it in the ocean and going out and mining more, because 1 pound of ore is not 1 pound of iron. A lot of energy and coal gets exposed to make that one little bit of iron. So we need to start thinking of, there's other things we could put in the ocean that could Wreaths could be built.
So
on
it's good. So iron is just something we really need to start
Well, we need to
thinking
start
of
thinking about-
as a precious commodity.
Yes,
Start
we
thinking
need to start
everything.
thinking everything is precious. And
Yeah, of course. Sorry.
California, where we started with a long time ago. One of the biggest things, and I think California should lead us on this, is lawn trimmers.
What?
Think of what is a lawn trimmer? It's a little piece of plastic string on a motor that you spin around, and as the little particles break off the end, cuts the grass.
That's bad. That's what I was
We
talking
have-
about earlier.
Yes, that's
All
why
these
I
little
said,
particles of little this and little that.
and we should
Fuck.
start by getting rid of lawn trimmers
Yeah.
because all they do is
Hey,
make
James.
Yes, Cheryl.
James, in California, didn't the governor decriminalize anyone with HIV?
So, are you saying that in California, you can be criminalized if you?
No, decriminalize. It
So
used
yeah,
to
you're
be
saying
a felony.
decriminalized, meaning not.
Yeah, I
If
read
you-
about that, Shirley. It was like if you knowingly spread HIV or something, it's been somewhat decriminalized.
It's criminalized for sure. With yeah. So so are you saying they've decriminalized it?
Yeah, they decriminalized it. It's not a felony.
Oh,
That
geez.
that shit should still be a felony because that's like, you know,
That's you're
you-
fucking
That's
killing
attempted
somebody.
murder.
Yeah.
If you knowingly spread HIV, then you're more of a threat to society than an armed robber, for example.
Yeah.
Or like you need to be like taken away, maybe not treated inhumanely, but you need to be removed from society until you get some fucking counseling, because
That's pretty fucked
spreading
up.
HIV isn't cool.
That's not cool. So
I
here,
mean, they can go after innocent people and it's really fucked up. And you know what? You know what? If once that shit happens, yeah, it's gonna look very bad. They really need to really think about that, because that's spreading a virus that there's no known cure for it, but there are some stuff that help it, but there's no known cure for it.
Well, and imagine how this is going to play out in court. I mean, how are you ever going to prove that?
I mean, some
spread
people could
HIV.
be really, because like with some people, they could be really psychotic and really manipulative about it. It's really sickening.
are you saying they stripped the law, Cheryl? They don't. There is a law in California. Are you saying they don't have the law anymore, that you won't get prosecuted?
It's not a felon. It's not a felony anymore, James. It's a misdemeanor now.
Oh, that's fucked up. Shit.
Well, I imagine things were all fucked up when these kinds of cases came to court, because some of the people, quote, knowingly spread HIV, but they didn't know it, and then some of the people, were just drug addicts or something else, and it was all fucked up. And this is their kind of fucked up attempt to rectify it, and I don't know if they've gone in the right direction. I don't know.
Damn,
I'd
they
have to-
worry about them spreading HIV in prison.
On purpose, from what I've heard.
I mean, probably those laws do need to be reviewed and, adjusted. But I don't know. I just have to look at what they did. It doesn't sound cool on the surface, though.
That
No.
sounds very wrong. All right, so now, all right, I'm not going out to the bar anymore.
Why not?
Yes, man. There's some crazy chicks out there that might do something.
Scared of girls now, James?
Very, very scared. What do you
No,
think,
but
Cheryl?
this is what you could do, James.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
is what my aunt did. she dated this guy for a long time, and before she had sex with him, she said, we both got to go get an HIV test done. And he wouldn't got it done.
Oh shit! I forgot you lived in California.
And
That's what the trouble is.
yeah.
Yeah. That's why I asked James the question.
Let me locate that. Offense.
I'm surprised you missed that, James.
Criminal. What was that?
They decriminalized anyone infected with HIV to a misdemeanor from a felony.
All right. So yes, spitting or transmitting HIV-infected bodily fluids is a criminal offense in some states, particularly if the target is a prison guard. Some states treat the transmission of HIV, depending upon the variety of factors, as a felony and others as misdemeanors. Okay, so I want to know this. All right.
Well, it's hard to tell. Like, it's without actually looking at what they did, because all I saw were the sensationalized headlines about it. So I don't really know exactly what's going on. Like I said, a lot of these laws are messed up and inconsistent. It seems you hear about
She's right.
cases involving AIDS.
She's
over the
right.
years.
As of sometime in March of this year, it's right here. No wonder there's so many fucking people at the bars lately. Jesus Christ.
So, will this law like result in an increase in the spread of HIV? That's the question to the panel.
That's the fear. I think they should have kept it. If you actually have something that you should be quarantined for that could cause death, illness to death, in a sense, upon others, you have to be. If you are unable to, cognitively think and do and make the right decisions, then it's of course it's not going to be your fault. But when it comes to the HIV, they call it, it should be fucking a felony. It should be it's like a gun. Imagine a woman that's on a fucking, I want to kill, my last boyfriend was an asshole and cheated on me, and I'm just gonna go fuck spread my shit to who knows, or vice versa. I don't think that's a good idea at all. That's what I don't think that's.
Well, I don't think it's going to significantly increase the spread of HIV.
Yeah, not to a giant state.
Most people aren't going to knowingly spread HIV. The kind of crazy, you're going to come across a crazy once in a while, like you're talking about, James.
Yeah, every once in a while.
But that's going to be rare. And felony or misdemeanor, you're probably going to die of AIDS anyway. So I mean, how is it really going to de-incentivize someone to move it down to a misdemeanor? I guess to some degree it would, but you've got that too. So I don't see it significantly increasing the spread. So do I have a problem with the law necessarily? I don't think it's a good idea, but yeah. I don't think it's going to cause a lot of damage either.
It depends on what the misdemeanor is. If the misdemeanor is like $5,000, then I'm actually feeling a little better about going out.
Got to do community service at the blood bank.
Oh shit!
They forgot the blood bank.
At the blood bank.
That is fucking bad. That is terrible.
$30 fine out the door.
Yeah. $150, and the penalty assessment is $42. Then to report to the nearest blood bank and give a quart of blood.
No, just volunteer. You just got to work there.
Yeah, you got to work at the blood bank, and then you have to work at the local shelter and the church that provides food and local schools. You need to go. To all the daycares.
Back
Just-
in the 80s, the first step they took with the concern of AIDS in the blood banks was they swapped the blood from Des Moines and Omaha with San Francisco, because they were afraid that people wouldn't want to go for surgery in San Francisco if they knew they had blood from San Francisco.
wow.
You know, it's not because of San Francisco's a dirty place. I mean, it's just dirty. Like, there's bums like that piss all over the place. Like, homosexual culture, like, aside, like, that wouldn't matter to me. But accepting blood from San Francisco, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of desperate people giving blood.
On the other hand, our lieutenant, well, he's not really lieutenant governor, I guess. He's somebody that works for the governor was caught urinating on the state house, I believe.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I can't really say that we don't meet that criteria either. And San Francisco doesn't have manure cannons.
That's true. That's true. I don't
Is
think
it-
I would
is it
accept
wrong of me?
water from.
I immediately thought of I left my blood in San Francisco.
I don't know how
Was that
long.
wrong of me?
I don't know how long they kept that up, but when it was found out, the islands were very upset.
Okay. Well, hold
Surely
on.
thought it was
Hey,
funny.
you
That's
guys, please time out. Careful, okay? Careful, because there are a lot of people out there that accidentally, through blood transfusion or some way or somehow, accidentally got the HIV, and we apologize if we're making insensitive comments.
That is correct.
And
But the hysteria of the 80s when this happened.
Yeah.
I mean, even the president was feeling the hysteria. We had a president who viewed HIV as a gift from God to cleanse us of gays.
yeah,
I remember
him
Ryan
and Pat
White.
Roberts.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like, you know, if you work in like someone working in a school or whatever and they have HIV, that's fine. You know, there's
Well, remember
chance of transmission.
Magic Johnson.
What's
Remember Magic Johnson. Remember Magic Johnson. Everybody was losing his mind when he got a bloody nose on the basketball court when they first found out that he was HIV positive. If you remember that.
There's other bloodborne transmittable diseases. And realistically,
Right.
Coughing and breathing probably present more of a hazard with other bacteria and other viruses other than HIV than HIV. People die from pneumonia.
Yep.
And I'm all swollen right now because I just got a pneumonia shot. I'm such a baby.
Yeah, I'll never get a flu shot again.
I'll never get a flu shot or a pneumonia shot. Either one.
No.
Flu shot.
Last time I got a flu shot, I was sick for like 2 weeks.
Well, the real
Of course,
tragedy.
it came from the post office.
I had to get a flu shot because my daughter cannot have a flu shot or a pneumonia shot because they're grown in chicken eggs. She can't have any contact with avian albumin. So,
Well, that's good.
well, because she is at extremely high risk, and my father is at extremely high risk. I really have to say, okay, I got to reduce one vector that, and most likely person to give her pneumonia or the flu is me, since she works out of the house here too. And
really?
I tend to do all the grocery shopping, so I'm the one that gets out there and gets access to it. And because I had 6 weeks of coughing, yeah, they put me on a flu, and makes you feel like you got arthritis for a few days here.
Well, as far as Magic Johnson goes, I mean, everyone should have that kind of treatment. You know.
Right.
Again,
I think he get his from overseas. I think he get his treatment from overseas because he's doing very freaking well.
yeah. Well, we have a lot of ministers that do missionary trips to Thailand. I don't know if that's just a Midwest thing, but tell me they're really doing a missionary trip to Thailand.
I don't, you know, it sounds suspicious.
When I moved to Rochelle, Illinois, I'm not there now, but the very first thing was this great big town-wide fundraiser to send this minister for a missionary trip to Thailand to help convert prostitutes.
Nice. Did he come back?
How true is it about the potency of HIV drugs now, and the fact that they're not really being distributed even now?
I'm not medically competent.
Okay. I had heard that that potent HIV drugs had been developed for decades. Now I'm the same way as you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I haven't really kept up on that at all. When the people I hang out with talk about it, sugar-coated shields and stuff like that, I really don't have an understanding of what they're talking about.
Right.
I really believe they have a cure. I don't trust the government.
Yeah, I don't know how close they are to that, but I had heard similar stuff.
I just remember that movie Outbreak with that virus, and the government actually had a cure, and they had to fight to get it.
It seems to be about reducing the virus count in one's body, right? I mean, so
Yeah, almost everything we can handle a certain level of.
to some degree, it would be dependent on the individual. You know, maybe there are some people out there that, with extensive amounts of treatment, could be cured of HIV.
Well, look at sunburn. Sunburn is your skin shedding a layer to prevent cancer. And it's likely that you actually get cancer when you get a sunburn and you blow it off.
Well, you have to wonder, like, what's the next step? I mean, how do we?
The body has a lot of different actions. What happens is, and now again, like I said, this is not an area of competency for me at all. But the AIDS virus may not be the actual virus that's causing the problem.
Right. Right.
It might be what's called a cohort, something that's found at the same time as it. The AIDS virus itself, as we know it, this is a really reduced description and not scientifically accurate. The AIDS virus is candy coated. It has something else that allows it to interact that doesn't look like the AIDS virus.
And that's why white blood cells don't attack it.
Yes, and that candy coating gets it into places it shouldn't go. But beyond that, that's the limit of my understanding of it.
Well, and then that comes down to the problem. I mean, as far as the hysteria in the '80s goes, and like we're kind of clueless on it now. It's
really
a lack
was.
of education. That's what we're.
Well, I mean, our presentation from the president on down at the beginning was, "Don't worry, only gays get this." It's not a direct quote, but that's kind of the attitude that was put out.
I remember it.
And the first woman that proved that she got it from a dentist sent shockwaves through the dental systems.
Was it an actress?
I don't remember who she was. The unfortunate woman got it using tools, and it completely changed uh, how tools were handled by the dental group. I have a cousin who is a dental hygienist, and she has an extraordinary amount of training per year on keeping up with the current methods of treating just the instruments.
Yeah, they have to. They don't really sterilize them like they should be.
Oh no, they do. There's government regulations and there's insurance regulations. If you want to keep your insurance, you better meet the insurance company's regulations for what you do, and they will check on you. So the dentist is a very high risk cost for an insurance company, and they will ensure that you have hygienists on staff that properly sterilize your equipment. That was not true in the 80s.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about in the 80s.
Yeah.
We used to have to go down to the butcher in the 80s. Remember those days? The butcher and the barber?
Yeah.
Get our surgery done. So long ago.
Yeah. And, but yeah, no, the dental hygienist now is almost as trained as the dentist. I realize not quite as much, but they're not just somebody trained off the street anymore.
Well, that's a big factor of, if we talk about bringing medical costs down and bringing these costs down. I mean, this is a big part of it. Like these insurance companies.
Yeah, well,
as well as the cost of medical school.
It is one of the few things where an insurance company does good because of the way they enforce things.
Definitely.
On the other hand, I think that regulations should run it. And I like the idea of the trained dental hygienist. Let's come up with a new level of professional, and let's start calling them dentist assistant. Just like we have physician's assistant, somebody that has a whole lot of training. That we need swarms of new levels of medical care that we can get more of out to the field so that more people get more care affordably. And then I still say,
I think dental need to be involved with medical because that's part of your body, your mouth.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that other things should be involved as well.
Well, I'm not for scrapping the systems themselves, but when we talk about adjusting the costs of, providing something like free healthcare, I mean, then we get again into the argument of what role do these insurance companies play? I mean, they do play an important role in some of these industries.
Yeah, and some of what they do, we need to keep. Sorry if I'm wincing. I'm trying to take a bandage off.
Are you still whining about that?
You like me, Snort.
Number 3. I can't leave a Band-Aid on. But I'm hairy.
Okay.
Oh, no, what? Put some oil.
Okay, that's TMI.
Snort, put some oil or Vaseline on it.
Okay. No. You don't have to do it now. No.
Olive oil?
I don't know. We really need to start examining these insurance companies and like these shell games that we're playing with Obamacare and whatever. I mean, they got to stop.
Shell game is a good way to say it.
Yeah, well, we see it across again a variety of. Oh, it's so tricky. I don't understand why people just can't see through a lot of this crap.
They make
I'm thinking about Michael Moore movie where the. Oh, go ahead.
That was.
Go ahead, Shirley. I was just bitching about these people.
Go ahead, Shirley.
I'm thinking about Michael Moore's movie Where to Invade Next, and how all those countries have free health care. I don't know if they never mentioned dental, but they have free health care. And I see the woman go to the hospital, have a baby, and they leaving. Nobody's saying, "Oh, here's the bill." They're just leaving out, and and it's just crazy. And the people are happy, and then you could get a prescription from a doctor if you're stressed out, and go to a place for 3 weeks with your children to rest. I forgot what country that was. I'm like, that is fucking great.
It's common in Sweden that you take the month of either June or July off. I think it's June. And of course, June in June in Sweden is not like June down here. They're way up toward the North Pole, so it's like 24-hour sunlight up there. It's like you don't waste that time indoors, and a lot of them actually go to Spain. The same thing with Northern Ireland. A lot of people from Northern Ireland will spend a lot of time in Spain. And uh, you know, uh, when they're near European Union and they go between the areas, they still get the free health care when they're on vacation. And so they're not at risk. And I just wish that was here for all the medical things that start with bad. It's possible that even diabetes starts with bad teeth. And so
Hey,
why isn't our health care, including dental, from the moment we have teeth?
yeah.
I mean, the arguments about the burdens on physicians, a lot of them are valid. Again, because of the insurance companies, because of the costs of specialized recertification in medical school.
Now,
It is a real cost.
some of that is self-imposed. The AMA limits the number of doctors that are allowed to be trained in the United States. That should be abolished.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. What's their reasoning?
The less doctors, the more money they have.
Well, yeah, but I mean, is that their stated reason? What's their stated reason?
Yes.
That's their stated reason.
Yeah, well, I guess they have multiple stated reasons. They feel that they have to maintain the ultimate cream of the crop.
Oh, so it's a quality control measure then.
Quality of the wallet control.
Who else is coming
Now,
in?
actually, they use the term quality assurance.
Yeah, yep. What's up, Dom?
Dom's on twice. Why does that happen? Do you guys know why that happens? Why people come on, there's two of them?
It's Trump, dude. It's Trump.
I'll be right back.
Hey, Dominic.
Hey, Dominic.
He on here twice.
I don't think he can hear us or see us. We can see you, though, dude. All right.
I'm in. Yeah. I had to come in. I heard you talking about healthcare, and that's something that, I really think has been so deliberately complicated.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, healthcare, it's not free. Okay. If we get single payer healthcare, it's not free. You don't get tax. Okay. And a tax, we have, in fact, we have a plan in Pennsylvania that we've been pushing for years, and we have you get a couple sponsors, but it never goes through. But I'll post a link. You can
What
go to that.
plan is that? What plan is that, Dominic? I live in Philly.
It's called Healthcare for All PA. It's a single payer plan.
Oh, okay. Let me go do that.
Now the Pennsylvania plan, I don't know if it was revised. It was just revised, but before the individual paid 3% of their taxable income. Okay, businesses paid 10% of their payroll. Right. Now I can tell you for a fact, and you can look it up, that saves businesses millions, big businesses, even small businesses, and small businesses would be able to afford health care for their employees. But who wouldn't need it because it's paid, it's single payer, it's universal, everybody has it. Now in our plan, it covers medical, hospitalization, dental, vision, psychiatric, and elder care. Okay, so you figured it out. Most people will be paying a year what they pay a month right now in taxes. Okay, and instead of all that money being siphoned off by the insurance companies who have these multi-billion-dollar salaries, okay, and these huge overheads and these big perks, all that money would be put to healthcare. Now, the insurance companies, they don't have an incentive to provide you health care. Okay, that's just capitalism. So the less health care you get, the more money they keep for their perks and bonuses and all their other luxuries. Now, we could have all that. Okay, it would be actually cheaper to provide it. Okay, for everybody if they were doing that tax because most of the people who, even if they have health care now, like when I was working with PennDOT, I think I was paying almost $500 a month. Okay, so even if your employer has it, you're still paying. All right, so all that middleman is taken out. It goes directly to healthcare, and then you're going to get the argument of rationing. Oh, they're going to ration it. Well, we ration it now, if not outright deny it. Okay, if you don't have insurance, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, with a single payer plan, you might have to wait for like a knee operation, and if somebody else is having life threatening surgery, okay, you might have to wait a couple weeks. You do that now, okay. And if you take a look at the statistics for places like Canada, and Canada, I think would be the most logical because it's closer, and our system would be based on theirs. But the patient satisfaction is phenomenal. Their life expectancies are more. They actually have better health care than we do. You might have some better treatment things here if you can afford it. Okay, but as far as health care, you have everything. You'd have everything from cradle to grave. You're covered whether you're working, whether you're retired, whether what. You pay based on your ability to pay to a percentage of your income, and that's it. That's the whole program. But people are so brainwashed. Now, if you could have that, wouldn't you want that? Okay, we can have it, but people are so brainwashed and afraid to take that chance that somebody might get something and take it away from them, that they'll keep the crap that we have now, which really isn't healthcare, it's health insurance.
Well,
Okay.
and again, there are like some parts of the insurance system that are beneficial. Like, for example, they require these doctors again to, get these recertifications. Now that's a good thing. Now, what we need to do is not only, break up some of these insurance systems, reorganize them, but we need to pick through them and decide which parts of them we want to keep and how we want to arrange those parts. You
Well,
know
let
what
me
I'm
ask
saying?
you. What? Yeah, I think I do. But you wouldn't have to keep an insurance company. You can contract an insurance company to administer certain parts of the program. Okay, I think that would be helpful there. Okay, but the program that is going to be in place is a universal program where this doctor doesn't have to submit 3 forms for that patient, and that doctor isn't confused and not getting paid. None of that. People have a card, they go to the doctor, they take the numbers, the doctor sends the bill, and who's ever in charge of paying that bill in the government sends them their payment. The doctor is the one that determines what treatment you need. And recertifications, I'm sure that that's not going to change. Safety issues, they're not going to change.
But we would just, as far as like the massive amounts of the bureaucracy, right? And it would just be transferred from the private sector to the public sector, because you would still have to have like all these people making sure that doctors are recertifying, etc. So you're not really eliminating the bureaucracy, you're eliminating some of the profiteering, possibly.
And you're eliminating a lot of the bureaucracy with regard to submission of medical forms and payment for service rendered. Okay, so that's a massive amount of bureaucracy. Doctors' offices have people working there just to keep those forms going. Now, one thing too, the Pennsylvania plan that also realizes that there's going to be a loss in jobs. So there's retraining. There's money for retraining for the people that are going to be displaced in the insurance industry. Okay, that's no different than the people who are displaced in a steel mill when they ship it over to Europe. Okay, that's no different than that, except it's actually better because those guys didn't have as much training as is in the bill for these people, the levels. But it's just it's transferring the payer and who collects the money. All the money goes in one pot, so you don't have like areas where there are healthy people and their pot's so much bigger because nobody's getting sick. Then you have the retirement community over here where these people have paid their dues. They're trying to live their lives out. They need a little bit of extra help. Their pot's real low. All the pots combined, so everybody gets what they need. And there's really no incentive to deny treatment to anyone.
I agree that, like, I like the single payer system, but at the same time, we don't want it to be a disaster when it rolls out. Like we've seen the way like the U.S. has handled other healthcare systems, like the VA, for example. Okay, it's not good. But when we roll this next one out, we want to make sure that we're not running into some of these problems. And part of it is, we're not going to get rid of insurance companies, even if we want to.
No, we might not get rid of the administration part of it, but we would get rid of the insurance company. The insurance company is dead weight. Insurance company is dead weight. Let me say something about the VA. I'm a patient with the VA. They get a bad rap, and they get a bad rap because the insurance companies don't want the people to see how good of a system that is. Their overhead is low. They want the
From what I know about the VA, it's pretty hospital.
Time out. What's that static noise?
It seems like some hospitals are good and some aren't. Like the one in Detroit, that was pretty bad for a lot of years, but I guess they made it. There was one in Biloxi that was really bad. I saw a lot.
Somebody's breathing heavy.
Hey, hold on. Give me a second, guys. Give me a second. I gotta fix this. Hold on.
Is Eric sleeping?
No.
No.
Oh.
Hold on. I don't know what that is.
I'm in there twice. I don't know. Maybe they see it. When I tried to get in the first time, it wouldn't go in, and I went out. Can you knock this one off? There you go.
Yeah. Eric did.
Well, we know Halloween's
Thanks,
coming.
Some kind of ghost. Watch out.
We've got a. It's the NSA. It's the NSA.
It seems
CIA.
From what I've heard, it's pretty hospital dependent. From what I've seen, it's kind of hospital dependent. I don't know why that would be, since it's supposed to be a standardized system, right?
Look, it's Hillary Clinton. It's scary Halloween.
Yeah,
GMO candy, diabetic candy.
you talking about the VA?
Anyway, the what I'm afraid of is them rolling out some kind of a real populist healthcare system, it turning into a disaster, and then people rejecting moving forward with it, kind of like we're seeing play out with the fake one that we've got now.
Well, that was the plan. That was the plan for that one.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the plan to scare people from government-funded healthcare. It's not government-funded healthcare. It's taxpayer-funded, but it's not government administered. They just pay the bills when the bills come in. The system stays the same. The negotiations with the doctors stays the same. And you're probably going to have some of the people from the insurance companies who no longer would exist as insurance companies doing that type of administration. Okay, but the fees and the funding and all the payments are going to come from the government. And the VA, I tell you what, I got to say something about the VA. The VA is, I've had excellent service from them. I've had from muscular skeletal issues to cardiac issues where I have pains and they gave me all kind of tests. I mean, I I cannot complain about it. Okay, now I can complain about some hospital things too. Okay, no place is perfect. But when you exaggerate the deficiencies of one system to play up the deficiencies, or the actually not even deficiencies, but the corruption of another system, then that's a little unfair.
I
Okay,
see what you're saying, that like that it's been maybe played up a bit, you know. I don't know. Like I've seen like the VAs that I've seen weren't that cool. Okay. So, and the guys in them like complain about the bad conditions there. And then then of course you read the stories in the media and you have to take those with a grain of salt, for the reasons you were stating. But
but you have people complain about, and you're going to have complainers. Okay, but I'm not saying that there's not room for improvement. But if you look at the VA is actually socialized medicine. Okay, the VA is run by the government. They're government employees. It's funded through the veterans. It's all government. That's socialist. Okay, a single payer system isn't socialist. A single payer system is where you have your choice of providers of doctors, but it's paid by one payer, by a single payer. Nothing changes in that respect. In fact, you probably have more leeway because the incentive isn't there to keep you from getting certain treatments that you need.
well, I think in another part of the reason maybe that the VA got a bad rap was because they were, you know, they had to deal with a lot after the Vietnam War, and they were perhaps underfunded or prepared for it. Because if you remember, a lot of that, came out of that was, just crowded hospitals in the 70s and early 80s. Like the Detroit one was really crowded.
But I mean, they need, if they had more money, that could be an excellent system. But if and look at the peripheral issues with single payer. Okay, if you have a business right now in most states, if you have a business, you have to have some type of workers' comp, or so you're paying some type of a disability tax in case your employee gets injured. Okay, single payer, that goes away because whether it gets injured on a job or gets injured at his house, whatever happens is covered. Okay, so that's gone away. Biggest part of your automobile insurance is liability. If you would hurt somebody because of the hospital bills, that goes away. So your insurance is going to come down. Okay. People say, well, I might have to pay for it. If I pay a tax, then my employer pays it now. Well, even if your employer, which I don't think too many of them do, pay everything for that. Even if you pay a tax, now you have a little bit more uh, um, reason to ask your boss for a raise. Say, you know what? How about you're not paying the insurance anymore. Give me a couple percent of that. So that makes wage negotiations easier. So there's a whole lot of good to that. I don't see any bad to it. And
Oh yeah,
even that,
it has a great trickle down effect. All I'm saying is I'm not trying to defend insurance companies here. They hold way too much sway. Like, in our government, and in our local. Hold on a second here. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be an insurance company apologist. I'm just trying to say that there are useful parts of the system that we could apply to, a nationalized healthcare system.
Oh, I agree, and I think we would need it. You would actually need some of their expertise, to keep it going. Some of them do have systems in place.
And yeah, transferring professionals would be part of that, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Transferring professionals. I don't think we're going to uproot insurance companies. They're always going to be around, but they need to play like a less prominent role, and the kind of services they would provide would change because of the national system, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to have some kind of extra coverage, or
Well, see, I don't think that should be allowed. It shouldn't be allowed. With single payer system, everybody gets the same. Okay, there's no reason for extra coverage if because you get extra coverage, I get sick, you get sick, you're going to go first. What's that mean? We're any type of insurance outside of the single payer system would do nothing but undermine that system. There's no need for it. You have everything. If you're rich enough that you really need something, you could probably hire a doctor to come to your house. Other than that, everybody gets the same.
I agree with you. It should be everybody gets the same because that seems like equality to me. It seems like that pertains to equality, matter of equality.
Yeah, especially for healthcare. I mean, why is somebody else more worthy of healthcare than someone else?
All men are created equal. Was there like a caveat or an exception to that about seeing doctors?
Money part, if you're rich.
Yeah. The problem that my father-in-law used to have with VA care was that in Iowa, it used to be that you had to go to Marshalltown, Des Moines, or Omaha to get VA care. These people for Vietnam, Korea, whatever, were many of them were recruited and drafted from remote cities in Iowa. But when they returned home, they were still required to go to some big city in order to be able to get their care. That doesn't reflect the quality of the care. It reflects that they weren't given care in a reasonable distance from where they lived. Now, I believe recently they've started letting VA care be administered in remote towns in Iowa by local hospitals, which I think has covered that issue. But I think it's extremely wrong to draft somebody from, let's say, Decorah, Iowa, and then make them travel 6 hours to get medical care.
Oh, I agree, and you're right that they did change that. I think the Maine had something to do with that, changing that to where if there's not one like within I think 50 miles, you can go to the nearest one.
Mm-hmm. Which meant that I think 75% of Iowans were not covered. We're not within reasonable access of a VA hospital, and it might have been more like 80%. But also the people that were from the rural towns were less likely to be able to get out of the draft. So they had a higher percentage of people that were actually drafted.
So I'm going to post California's single payer plan in looks like somebody made a PowerPoint at some point. I tried to blow it up, but it's pretty simple. The money comes from many different directions. It'll be on YouTube. Sorry. Okay, not that.
Well, hey guys, I'm going to get ready to go.
All right.
Oh,
Good
good
night,
night,
Shirley.
Cheryl.
Love you. Take care. Have a good
Love you
one.
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
Really, did you find that
Aloha.
site? Sure.
Thanks for coming on, Cheryl. And there she goes. Okay, so let me just post it real quick, and then we can go over the details. Now it's taking forever to fucking download. All right, there it is. Okay, so here we go. So it'll be there. There it is. Now, so what it's saying is that there's the funding, the payments, and then there's the healthcare parts of it. There's federal funding that'll go into it, state funding that'll go into it, employer funding that'll go into it, individual funding that'll go into it. The state funding, excuse me, the federal funding is the biggest issue because for the 1% and the Republicans, and a lot of corporates out there because they're lobbyists, super PACs, APACs, Heritage Foundation, ALEC, I mean, just fucking name it. Don't want that. They want that money going to like the military and other things besides keeping us healthy. State somewhat employers, they don't really care. They would like it because if you're a smart employer, you would like to have single payer, universal, or something similar, because then you're sharing your costs with not just the individual, but the state and the federal. So it'll probably be less, but at the same time, you're also getting a healthy employee, somebody that can show up to work, somebody that's being taken care of. Of course, there's going to be costs. Everybody knows that. That money will then go to the doctors, the clinics, the drugs, and that's the doctors is kind of tricky because there's a lot of doctors out there that are specialized, and then there's a lot of doctors that are that that will work for a little bit less, but then they'll get a solid amount of money. They understand single payer is a consistent amount of money. It'll be constant. It won't. They're having problems now with people that are not paying their bills. Collection agencies have grown astronomically, and everybody's in fucking debt and going poor and living in fucking on riverbeds up against highways and shit like that. The clinics will have to start getting their getting rid of the pharmaceutical industries prices in regards to an IV bag for $200. There's a lot that needs to happen when all this starts to come about. They have to start, you know, making a fair and balanced pricing, and make sure that clinics and hospitals aren't paying a lot for the prescription drugs. The patients aren't paying for the prescription drugs and the medications. Like who's the guy that does not the entomologist, but the guy who does the shots, who gives you the shots before and after, or before you have surgery. You guys know what that
Anesthesiologist.
anesthesiologist, right? Well, that person, for them to shoot you up with, and I had a colonoscopy a while ago with a fucking roofie, and I don't remember it. That's another story. But that guy gets paid a shit ton of money, and to have that shot, I think I saw in the bill was like $280. It was fucking insane. So all that needs to be, there's single payer could actually work, but you have a lot of areas within the doctors, some doctors, even the hospitals, pharmaceutical companies that will lose money, and that's where some of these insurance companies come in. But then if you can get rid of these middlemen or these salespeople or the retailers, then you can have an actual system that can work, and then all of the United States, regardless of income or pre-existing conditions, you can go to any doctor you want, get treated, no co-payments, deductibles, or exclusions. But there's a lot of things that need to be done uh, in regards to making sure these insurance companies. What's the name, Dominic? For it's not the insurance company. It's like the program, not the program, the provider. Oh, who's your provider? That's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? There's so many middlemen. There's like, it goes like 2 or 3 deep, and everybody's getting a piece of these ginormous bills that are turning our premiums and turning our co-pays into just astronomical amounts.
It's way too much. It's one like level feeding off of the one next to it,
Yeah,
and
exactly. It's out of control. So
it's out of control. But just to quickly return to the point about private insurance, I mean, if there was a nationalized healthcare system, I wouldn't have any problem with people being able to buy private insurance on the side. I
exactly,
mean,
I'm totally cool with
we
that.
could even tax it, for example.
Right.
Like,
But,
as
but
my main concern is the influence. My
cosmetic.
main concern is the influence the insurance companies have over the way healthcare is distributed, for example, or the way some of these other services are distributed. We need to lessen that influence. Like, and okay, once their influence is no longer a huge factor, fine, go ahead and sell some private insurance to somebody if you want.
What type of insurance? What would the what would I like? Say I wanted to buy some insurance. What kind of product would you have for me?
Well,
Because
I'm not a doctor, but I can imagine, like, I'd
well,
imagine.
I have everything right now. You know, and go ahead, Smith.
Aflac is a good situation for this. Japan had national health care, but the biggest country that was a customer of Aflac was Japan. Because if you wanted a single room, if you wanted extra pay to make up for your lost wages while you're in the hospital, different benefits and stuff, you got all of your extras by buying the Aflac add-on.
I understand.
See, but
I used
that's
to
a
have Aflac.
predatory practice, you know. Like, we wouldn't allow something like that to happen where these insurance, again, it's about reducing their influence. And part of that would be not letting them leech onto, you know, our systems in such a way.
They want a piece of it, though. That's the thing. If they, it, the way that it'll ever come about with this 2 parties is that these 2 parties are so in deep with these people. And I just posted this, and I've had it on my YouTube, on my Facebook before. Is that you have? I'll bring it up real quick. Here, it'll be on my YouTube. Hopefully, you guys can see it. But it's Democratic senators who voted against cheaper medicines, and these are people that took money from big pharma since 2011. Cory Booker, 385,000 and counting. You know, and the list goes on of about 20 people. But this is what we're fighting against. That's the biggest issue, is them, you know, donating, being, backroom deals. That's our biggest issue.
Well, I guess one example would be, let's say you had a pianist who's like making millions of dollars by traveling the globe. I mean, that dude's not going to want the standard medical insurance if his hands get busted up. He's going to want something more. And, like, should he be able to get it?
Yeah, he should. Or he should get it through the system. If he needs special care, they can
But
refer him to the same specialist that the insurance company's going to pay.
the
Insurance company
system
shouldn't have
Doesn't
to
the
pay for
pianist
that.
have
is the system going to pay for all the, like, the costs that come along with him breaking his hands, all the gigs that he had to give up, all, like, the record deals he had to give up?
Well, you're talking disability insurance, not health insurance. Okay, they're two separate things. People can buy disability insurance. So I would recommend it, you know, but you know that's not really a must-have like health insurance or health care. Okay, they're two different things. So I would agree with you, Noam, that there should be some type of. And I'm not saying all the insurance. I'm talking about health insurance companies, the ones that the providers right now. Okay, you're gonna have car insurance, you're gonna have health insurance, you're gonna have this, all that stuff there. That's a fact. But the fact of the matter is, they shouldn't be in the healthcare business. That's a non-profit product. You're talking about somebody's health, somebody's family. They're causing so much misery. I mean, people don't. They talk about, you know, the terrorists. You know, these guys are causing more misery than the terrorists, and the terrorists at least and have a well, whether we agree with it or not, they have like a motive, you know, other than profit. You know, they shouldn't be there.
Well, I agree with you. You know, medicine is one of these, like, it's part of the human legacy, and I think that everyone has a right to it. Just like an education and some of, like, the basic necessities of life. I mean, it's our ancestors that fought us to get us to this point. Okay, so we all deserve a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But
if you look into the history of healthcare, you'll see that racism has a lot to do. Roosevelt wanted to establish a single payer during his administration, but they got so much resistance from the Southern Democrats at that time because they didn't want the blacks to be able to go into the same hospitals and have the same level of health care as they did. That was a big factor. There's a book, I have to get the name of it. I read a while back. But there's an excellent book that lays out how many times it was tried and thwarted by actually racists who just didn't want to see a black person have the same health care as a white person.
So I just want to say something real quick. I was gonna say I think that the pianist would have it in his interest in a way for the coverage just to be generic and not generic, but to be generalized and have equality in it, so that everyone could get access to a specialist if they need to, or to get some treatment, specialized treatment, and get the best that's around or whatever. I say that because that gives them more practice, that gives them more data, and so it's kind of like laws that have twofold purpose: to punish the guilty and also to inspire fear in everyone else not to commit the crime. And so for medicine, it always has two kinds of purposes, which is to treat the patient and also to do research and to find out, advance the field. So a big part of the problem and what the TPP was going to address was to integrate medical knowledge and organize that and whatever, which is good. But then there was so much bad trappings along with it. But so I think the proprietariness of this knowledge and these medicines is negative actually, within the pharmaceuticals and the insurance agent companies. And with the baby boomers getting old, I just really think that basically Medicare for all and single payer, no copay, all that would be great because because it's just a lot of people that are going to need that, and to keep the costs down, to keep them reasonable, the government needs to have it on its back. And if the government has the bill, then which it probably is going to have to anyway, eventually taxpayers and people go to emergency rooms. So, but if the government has the bill and it's efficient like that within that system, that kind of a system, Medicare for all system, they're going to have a huge incentive, obviously, to actually keep the costs down for things. And then, I think more people are going to get covered.
It's actually pretty popular elsewhere. Medicare here in the U.S. is like that. It pays all the healthcare bills for people over 65. But there's also a catch when the government is the one paying all
Right now, with as far as
the bills, they get to decide what they will and will not pay for. If the system isn't funded well enough, if they haven't raised enough taxes from their citizens, that could lead to longer wait times and fewer doctors being available. Vermont right now is trying to set up the very first single-payer healthcare system in the United States. By one estimate, Vermont could save 25%, but it's also expensive.
Not the insurance company. So if that doctor said this guy was a pianist and needed, extra treatment, he would be more likely to send him to a specialist because he's not going to have to go through the insurance company and ask them if he can send him to a specialist. So, in a case like that, I think we'd still be better off with a medical system where the treatment is determined solely by the professionals, the doctors, and whoever giving that service, and their bill is just paid through our common pool of money that everybody throws in. If somebody gets hurt, that's what we usually pay for.
A very clear example of that goofiness of those networks and how this has this connection here, so you might not be going to, I don't know, it's funky who you actually go to. Is a good example is with ambulances. It depends which ambulance picks you up, where you go, and maybe this other hospital is a lot closer. I always thought that was so absurd. See an ambulance rushing by a hospital to like go to the other hospital because of just some business stuff.
Yeah, again, I'm not arguing against, single payer or a national health system. That's something that
Well,
I'd like to see, but just, I guess the question is, I mean, you would just eliminate private medical insurance entirely.
I'm with
Whereas I wouldn't.
talking about Cory Booker, basically talking about those donations because Congress people are actually arbiters and judges and things like that. And so, like, if you're having somebody arbitrate something and they've received $300,000, I mean, it's not going to be fair. And so they're there, performing a special duty and function, and they're doing it because of the lobbying system. And I don't know, something that's dissatisfactory way, I guess, for most people's palates. I think it's bad, and I just think that it deserves more sincerity and integrity, considering what it's pertaining to. People's lives and health, and your own countrymen. So, what kind of monster could you be to like not give a crap about people next door that they have to wait and go get treated? They go get treated. They put it off until it's something horrible or until it's like stage 3. I know somebody that died of stomach ulcers. He's a really good friend of the family. He just didn't have money to go in. He just laid on his couch one night and died.
They're everywhere, Ben. I'm sorry to say there are some people out there that don't really understand the necessity of socialism, which they love to mix with communism. And socialism already exists, and they don't even know they swim in it every day. The water they drink is a part of socialism. The reason why they're able to drive and not crash into each other is a part of. So I mean, the list goes on and on. But there are people, like I said, in power that are public servants that are getting a little dough to back off. They're right now they're gurus, they're financial consultants. They're finding ways how they can still get a piece of that pie. If you start seeing any legislator on the Hill, whether it be in the House or the Senate, that really starts to push single payer, whether it's Republican or Democrat, because that's all we have, then there's something fishy going on. I can tell you right now. Or something fishy as in they found out a way where the insurance companies can still be a part of the take. Okay, when the mafia can still get a piece of their shakedowns. So that's where one of our biggest obstacles. So we're going to keep talking about this. I know that, and I think this is good stuff. But in a nutshell, nothing's going to happen until we have a third party.
I think the lobbyists are really strong, and that's like the intermediaries between business and in business and in government. So, but like how we're also the intermediaries. The people are also have a relationship and like have a power with Congress, which is our vote. So like they have their lobbying money, we have our votes, but our votes aren't really as effective and things as we want them to be because of like just anything where elections aren't fair or funky things happen with ballots or anything like that, gerrymandering and electoral college, whatever it might be, the super delegates. So we need, like, they've been doing everything and then some to get their lobbying system more tweaked, and we got to figure out how to hinder our
Garden brought up one of the best points, and I've always said it. If we don't get rid of Citizens United, which I don't see a lot of people talking about, and the McCutcheon versus the FEC, and just get money out of politics, which that's like fucking, that's like moving a pyramid with your pinky right now. It's, that's, and so the next best thing is to bring in a viable third party, in my opinion, that could threaten to take their votes away. But on the other hand, you guys, I'm sorry, we're in a very, very bad spot. So on the other hand, so if you do bring in a third party, we have to at least allow a third party. And Gardens brought this up, and I brought it up, and Tex brought it up, and Dominic and everybody is they made it so hard for us to get a third party. They've actually changed legislation so that it's hard to bring in a third party. They've created their own rules so that the two lobbying bodies, the two political parties that are in power, actually wrote the laws to keep a third party from actually being a real threat. So until a lot of this changes, and there's so many changes, Eben brought this up the other day when I first started hanging out with you guys, and just want to let you guys know it's always a pleasure. He said that revolution in the place that we're at right now, almost like a physical revolution, and this is like a nightmare scenario for me. I think that's why I'm pushing a third party. But the only other way is to actually do something physical, and I really, really am trying to get the third party out there, because that would be our only hope. That would be our last end, to actually keep them from continually, just throwing
You can't
out.
match force with these people, dude.
Huh?
You can't. You can't match force with them.
No, you can't. No, that's what I'm saying.
It's
There's
not
no way.
like the old
I'm not
days where
saying.
people could fucking get up and revolt.
Yeah, they don't have muskets anymore, and it takes 48 seconds to pack your fucking your musket with gunpowder. It's totally a different thing now. So yes, of course, absolutely. So the thing is, but there are people out there that they're saying that they want to go, that they want to do that, because the voting system and the gerrymandering that Ben just brought up, the electoral. I mean, Donna Brazil is going to be an electoral superdelegate
again.
Right? Oh, hello. Hey, by the way, hey Tech, what's up, bro? So we have some very, very serious uphill battles, like Mount Everest type, to do, and we've got the answers. We've just got to find people that will support opening up the door, or at least a crack in the door, to let a third party be somewhat of a threat.
I've got a solution, James.
Let's hear it.
We'll post a word jumble. We'll fucking we'll put some confusing messaging out there that will probably offend at least 3/4 of the population.
You couldn't even say that. You couldn't even say that halfway.
We'll get a fairly militant vice presidential candidate. Who's willing to talk about busting shit up.
Oh, just somebody with long hair, like really long gray hair. you couldn't even, Guard. You couldn't even say that. Halfway through it, you were fucking cracking up. That was funny.
No, we're practicing for our satire show.
That's right. I can't wait. Man, I think we're going to make those people cry when I get them on here. And by the way, I haven't contacted them yet, but I have the list. And I'm going, this weekend, I'm going in hard.
James, I want the list.
Oh, I'll send you the list. Whoever wants you, just go after it, and we'll send the invites. I think all of us, whoever can, just send I'll just send it out there to send the invites.
I did a little bit of work today on that and found some people in Oregon. I've got at least 2 now. I put out a notice on Facebook to the one guy today. I'll see if he gets back to me. And the gal, I'm still researching the gal. So she's one of their national fundraisers, the Green Party's national fundraisers. She lives here in Oregon, so I will be contacting her next.
What do you got to retweet yourself?
So hold on. So I'm not saying protesting is not a good thing. I'm not saying going out there and marching isn't a good thing. I'm not saying boycotting isn't a good thing. You need to have that kind of publicity to get people to pay attention.
Wow.
To pay attention, right? Hey, look over here. Look over here.
But again, though, you're fighting on their ground, dude. like they have the publicity megalith. You don't.
Yeah, they do.
You know, like, and it's the same thing with if you want to talk about physical force, they have the megalith.
Oh yeah.
It's a huge megalith. If you've ever faced down the RoboCops, like at any of the protests that have gone on in the last 10 to 20 years,
Like Dapple.
Dapple in particular, I'm thinking, I go back longer than that. The second Iraq War, I was facing down RoboCops in the second Iraq War here in Portland, and that's a scary thing.
The way I see our like quote public relations issue is more like a siege situation. We hold, and we wait for people to come to us, because eventually things will really start to suck, and people will start to think and look for real solutions.
Yeah.
You know, so you just hold, just hold. That's all you can do.
The idea of holding, what I equate that with is, like, over the years, the socialists, and I'm not afraid to use that word because I actually know what it means, and I know a little bit of the history of it. Paris, the workers in Paris, they hold these general strikes, and their general strikes, if they're big enough, they usually get their needs met fairly quickly.
Yeah, and essentially striking is a siege tactic.
It is a tactic.
You're holding, and you're not doing anything. So, I mean, divestment and striking is, of course, a part of that. But, as far as getting the message out there, I think it's just having a whole bunch of different little groups having a similar message, and then people eventually trickling into them.
I wanted to just rewind real quick and answer. I think I heard Benji interject something, and the only thing that I said to that activist within the Green Party today was that we're another activist group circle that we've been talking a lot lately about third-party politics, and we're looking at the Green Party really heavily. And would he be willing, or could he point us in the direction of people that would want to come on and talk to us, about the Green Party and what they're doing? Kept it real general and succinct and to the point.
All right. Yeah, since we're here, somebody's got to type it.
Yeah, we could do that group wise, get some wording.
Yeah, let's just do it since we're here. I'm gonna say, hey, what's up? No. To whom it may concern, how do you want to start it? I'm doing it right now.
Let me find my verbiage. And I could just read what I wrote.
It should start with, hey, shitheads.
I'm fucking coming for you.
Right. Hey, fellow No,
Hey, people trying to keep up but can't.
These were probably like-minded activists.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, Kate, dearest.
Dearest?
Yeah, I'm gonna say dearest just because I'll make it a little jovial. Dearest third party, Green Party members.
I'll find my verbiage.
All right. Do you want to just tweet it to me?
It's in the message. It's in our usual message area on Twitter.
Oh, all right.
I wrote it in there.
I'm going in there.
All right.
I'm going in. Talk amongst yourselves. Here's a topic. I just got pranked. Colin Kaepernick signed a 1-year deal for $8 million to the Green Bay Packers.
Did he really?
No, it's bullshit.
To the Packers?
God, they need
quite a switch up.
And they need him. The
Packers need a quarterback.
They put back.
He's out. The man's out.
Yeah, he's free agent all the way, man.
Iowa does not have an NFL team. Maybe we could.
God, wouldn't that be great? An alternate NFL.
Anybody who refused to sign him was just stupid. That guy is a cash pit. His name is all over media.
He would
You
bring.
know, like
He would
yeah,
fill up every fucking stadium.
Yeah.
Right? No, right now. If you guys have heard it, if you've heard it and seen it, especially in California with the fucking Chargers and the fucking Rams playing like in the
Back in
same
LA.
city, that is just the dumbest fucking
that
move.
is the
Are
golden
they
fucking
saturated?
calf.
No,
Are they
No,
saturated
but-
right now in LA with the Dodgers going to the World Series?
oh, it's crazy. It's crazy, which
Yeah.
is cool. But that's cool. But the thing is everywhere attendance is completely down. They've lost about 20 to 30% of people filling up these stadiums because of either they're for or they're against or whatever. It's just so many things. The brutals, the dogs, the it's just it never fucking ends with all these people that have had brain damage. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, is
that's
that
the big one in
is
my
that
mind.
what it is? I mean, is that the biggest culprit?
That's the big one in my
Well,
mind.
that's not the case in Kaepernick's instance, but like
No.
these
It
other
is with it,
people,
all,
you know?
it is with a lot of NFL carnage adding up.
It's ridiculous though. That guy is like worth a mint.
Totally.
He
And
was
he has been for months, and like this whole thing is just dumb.
It's
If he like guy wants to make a fucking statement, let him make the damn statement. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, even Minnesota has a football team. Can't
you know what they do?
Oh my god.
They're actually doing pretty good, by the way. Vikings aren't doing too bad. I don't see it.
And they lost a quarterback a year or so ago that was doing even better. So, yeah. Teddy. I think his first name was Teddy.
I don't see the thing.
You don't see it? Maybe I just shit canned it. I know I shit canned it. I'll find it.
Doesn't Missouri have two teams?
Misery. Let's see. They lost the Rams, Snork.
Okay, so St. Louis has nobody?
Right. They just have a baseball team again. They have a good hockey team. St. Louis. I'm not finding this.
I don't know. This whole thing is just more noise. I can't believe what they put. This guy would wheel that dude out in a wheelchair, like, and put him in front of the crowd. I would sign him, and then if he was, I don't care. Like, I would put him out on the field.
Well, aren't there other players like that too, though? Maybe not as much as him, but are there others that lost their position for political aspirations?
I don't know. Can you think of any? Anybody think of any?
I don't. Really
There's a Tebow who got crap for being a conservative Christian, but I don't know if it really cost him anything.
That wasn't really it. He
He
part
played
of it.
himself. Yeah, he played himself out of the league, though.
The biggest thing was, and I know you're not going to believe this, but I follow football.
No.
Yeah,
no way.
I know. It's weird because I'm mainly a badminton guy.
I figured.
Which I'm telling you, I played that game, and it is a beast. You will get hurt, and your muscles will hurt for days. It's not an easy thing to do. Okay. Anyway,
Badminton or ping pong?
So it was the way he was releasing the ball. He could not get rid of this habit of dropping the ball below his gut when he would pass, and he ran too much, which made him also a liability. He ran with his head first, and he just got a little too crazy. Plus, the other last thing I heard was, as far as plays and researching the team, he wasn't kind of getting it all too well. There's a lot going on out there.
Yeah, like I'm just trying to think of one. He didn't really cost him anything.
No.
But can you think of someone else? Like,
That is a bad sport to be politically active, conscious, aware.
Exactly.
You look at the NFL, it is one of the most conservative institutions with the tie-ins with the Pentagon, and they're so worried about their image, and rightly so, with all the you know, the rape allegations, the
NASCAR and
misogyny, the Dallas Cowboys 10 to 15 years ago. Oh my God, what a shit show all that was. I don't follow football though. I don't follow football.
The other thing is like there's too much money on these games. The only question is what percentage of them are fixed or fucked with, not like if they are fucked with. There's too much money on them. Like integrity of the game, give me a break. Like you could decide the game pretty much in the box in football, you know.
I sit here on Sundays watching it sometimes and just being frustrated to no end because of the way they play from game to game, week to week. If it's not fixed, something's going on that my brain, with the inconsistencies that I'm seeing, the things just don't match up. And the amount of money that's out there, the amount of money it's like the Pentagon again. They are so big and so pampered. They're in their bubble, but it's money beyond. And then they've got so much of the public bamboozled to the point where the public's paying for these stadiums, the infrastructure, all of that. We were talking last night a little bit about the whether we should use our money here at home in America on the Earth, or we're going to go out into space, that kind of thing. If it was up to me right now, with all the disparities and whatnot going on, I'd shut the NFL down and use that money better elsewhere. And that sounds really heavy-handed, but I'd be a proponent of it anyway, let's say. And I'm a freedom guy.
Yeah. The thing is, for so many people, that's the only real entertainment they have, and it's what gets them through the week. I know so many people that being able to talk about their favorite sports team is the only thing they have to talk about at break time. They look so forward to it. It's such a part of their life. How would we replace that level of care?
I look at it as a collegial. I think we should go back to a collegial form of sports activity and enterprise where we either have, funded teams, but at a much lower level, or we root for our local high schools again. We root for our local colleges, educational institutions. We take the money back out of it.
But that hype machine is what makes it so enjoyable for so many people. Until we replace it with something else that people seek that level of enjoyment from, it's almost cruel to take it away from them.
Well, again,
I wouldn't be.
There are questions, but I think you can ratchet down that cool factor. I think you can ratchet that down.
Yeah, but we have to build something else up.
Ratchet it back.
Yeah, you have to make something else seem that exciting for the other people. And that could take 10, 15, 20, 30 years. That doesn't mean we shouldn't start now.
I don't want to get too crazy and say something to the effect like, well, let's bring back the Christians and, the Lions downtown at the local and replace them with that. At one point, in Rome's history, that's what they were using for, diversionary tactics for, their populace to be satiated by, in my estimation, attention and diversion that could be used better elsewhere.
I don't know, like just let maybe a lot of this stuff we just have to go in there and restructure the NFL. Tell them like to shape up, like start enforcing, like they're kind of off in their own little world there, legally and socially, and we need to bring them back to reality. So like, and a lot of that stuff can be done behind the scenes, and the fans will have their games. There aren't any more of these bullshit problems. We're no longer funding like the lifestyles of contractors and NFL owners, like things like that. Keep the NFL, but it's kind of.
And I'm not sure exactly when this happened, but If we just took away their tax exempt status, that might bring some money back for us.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Okay, I'll just say this about the NFL, then I'll get off of it. The NFL is like NASCAR. Okay? We need NASCAR like we need a hole in the head, another hole. We need football like I'm sorry, guys. I played football. I played D1 level football, and I played high school football. But there are so many other sports out there that are safer, just as challenging. Take for example rugby. I know you're saying
Or Australian rules football.
Yeah, Australian rules football, or just regular, the All Blacks, and just the way these guys play rugby is it's shoulder down, knee up tackles. You see what I'm saying? And there's less injuries because it's weird the way the body works is when it hits itself, it's the impact is not as severe. But when you have a helmet hitting a joint, when you have a helmet hitting another helmet, there's besides rugby, there's just other ways to entertain ourselves. I'm not really talking about soccer. Sorry.
Bare knuckle boxing.
I just think I honestly think that either football becomes safer and they start being greener and they start becoming a little more progressive in their views. The same things could happen in NASCAR. I actually, not to go too far away from this, but I actually used to work for kind of a racing company, and I did marketing for a company out of Willow Springs, and they were trying to bring in sponsorship for their show, which was a small racing company. They had different levels of cars, and we did pretty good for a while, but it kind of died out because there wasn't enough drama and crap inside it. The reality show in itself wasn't doing too good because it was always about the same people, so it kind of died out. And I told them, you got to bring in new people. People like the same people, but you got to bring... Anyway, they didn't listen to me, which happens all the time. So what I suggested before I leave is that you could have electrical vehicles that have lights all over them, that have sound that comes out of them, that sounds like a car or a train, whatever the fucking sound you want. But when you start doing that and you turn it into like a circus atmosphere, which you have to, it could start to take off. So there's a lot of things, excuse me, that need to happen with a lot of sports, a lot of ventures out there. They need to go in a more progressive direction, a more green direction, a smarter direction, especially when it comes to combustible engines, and especially when it comes to physical damage to the human body. I don't want people to grow up as wussies, but I don't think you would call anybody that's in the All Blacks of New Zealand a fucking pussy. That's all.
Right. So I found that verbiage, guys. I'll just read it real quick. My activist circle are talking green politics a lot lately. A lot of us voted for Jill Stein in 2016. I would be interested in talking to you further about Green Party social media strategy and Green Party politics in general at your earliest convenience, or possibly someone from your group could join us soon at one of our media get-togethers for a face-to-face.
I'm going to send you this in the chat. If you can copy and paste it, that's perfect. I like that. I'd like to throw marketing in there, branding,
right.
and
no, that's good.
Well, I would also suggest including a reason why they should do it.
Yes.
State them. State like there is an audience here. We have had other guests on, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And mention them by name.
Right.
Like anyone of any prominence.
And again, I was just doing it fairly informally, so I have no problems with any of that. So it's all good.
I just started this, so do whatever you want with it.
All right.
I'll
get it out of chalk, man.
Yeah. So we'll put it together. We'll get it out, but I want to get it out by this weekend. and then I'm just gonna fucking hit them up with it, and everybody.
Well, originally when we were talking about it, a few
Who-
days ago, we were talking about 3 weeks.
Right.
So we're on schedule.
Who's the contact? I'll be the contact. Leave my phone number. You can leave my cell and my email, and I'll be the contact person to where when they call, I'll just briefly go over what we do. I'll send them an example of what the forum will be like, and I think the best example would be when we spoke to Mr. David Elliott, or the guy that was from the Mountain Party with Stevie. By the way, has anybody seen Stevie? Is she all right? Everything good? Okay, anyway.
She's been gone a couple of days, but I think I've seen a couple of her Twitters, so I think she's
Okay.
hanging.
All right.
She's
Anyway, so that would be a good example to show. Would be something like that, or it can be something similar to this. But it wouldn't be. But the time frame would be hour minimum, and you stay as long as you want.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not going to. A half hour covers like 3 questions. That's not enough fucking time. Yeah.
And at the end of it, of course, Snork, I will be tacking on: are you shitheads, or do you really want to save the freaking world like the rest of us?
Please include that, and I want that in bold caps. Bold caps.
Very good.
Yeah, so don't be a fucking shithead and not respond. Oh, hey, listen, guys, I got to let you know something. I'm going to be going to sleep in like a few minutes, and I just totally spaced. Time was flying. I'm sorry. I can't leave it on. Last night I was just too tired. I got to get up super early in the morning. I think we've covered a lot of ground. Eric, thank you for being here. Snork, Ben
No
G,
problem.
Dominic, good to see
night,
you.
everybody.
Thank you, Cheryl, and everybody on the live chat. Thank you all for coming in. Remember, it's all about saving the planet and all of its inhabitants, and we're included in that inhabitants. And it starts with politics, usually, like it always does. All right, guys.
Hey guys.
Aloha.
Good night, everybody. Love you all. Have a good one. Take care.
Take care. Love ya. Love ya.
Ding.
Dong. Ding. Dong.
Ding dong.
Okay, how do I turn this off? Oh, right here. End meeting.
It's X.
Ending meeting now. And then I got to do the live stream. Which I probably won't do the live stream. I'll do that in a second. And I usually like to say hello.